unless you have been absolutely living under a rock, you would know that Jeep Stellantis has been sprinkling Easter eggs, trail markers, if you will, for the last few weeks on surprises about what the 58th annual 2024 concept vehicles are going to be. And they're out now, and so we're really excited. It's pretty cool. They've released 4 of them, and they go mild to wild and retro, which is kind of per the usual. So we've got 4 different concept vehicles for this year, and we've got the Jeep Vacationer concept, which is our Overland Wagoneer inspired retro build. It's wicked cool. It comes out with this really fine looking kind of green color palette to it. It's got wood grain. It's got a thin stripe down the side for that kind of retro styling. Exterior is called spearminted. So, like it or love it, it's kind of cool, and it absolutely stands out. Will we see that in production in the near future? I don't know. Jeep does, as we've talked about or will talk about later in the video, they do try out a bunch of colors through this process. Then we've got the Jeep Wrangler Lowdown concept, and the lower 40 was dropped in 2009 and for the 43rd annual Easter Jeep Safari. And this is an update on that 2009 concept, so pretty cool. And it's fitting the biggest tires possible on that low center of gravity builds that I love in the process. So minimum lift height, low center of gravity, keep everything low and tight to the ground, and get those big massive tires to roll over things. It is actually running 42 by 14.5 inch wide by 20 inch wheel BF Goodrich crawler. So pretty gnarly tire that's going to be on there. And that one is powered by a 392. Let all the American birds sing on that one. The Lowdown has Dana 60 axles with 538 gears. So it's absolutely built to the hilt, big hammer, small nail concept on that one. It also has a special color for this year called Poison Apple Red. Super cool color palette. It's got a beautiful kind of sheen to it. Then we have the Jeep Gladiator Rubicon high top concept, and it channels the full-size Jeeps of the 70s. Really gorgeous, kind of inspired by the Honcho color palette. It's a brown, so it's called Ginger Snap metallic exterior. Kind of dig it, and it's going to have perforated seats, seat inserts, and it's got this beautiful black and metallic brown. I really love the look of this Jeep. This one actually has some AEV parts on it, so look for those to be available both in Mopar Performance but also in the aftermarket. It does have that trusty 3.6 liter Pentastar V6. So, but again, Ultimate 60s or Mopar 60s rounded out with 538 gears. And then we've got the Willys Dispatcher concept, which again, if you know, I love these vintage throwback. It's going to have the big solid steel wheel look. I don't know if it's aluminum or if it's steel wheel itself. It's got a two-tone color palette, so the windshield, if you know your old vintage CJ5s and CJ6s, they oftentimes had a different color windshield than the body. Gloss back windshield almost disappears into the cab, black roll cage. Really beautiful look to it. It's running, this is interesting, it's running Dana 50 axles with 470 gears and 36-inch tires on 16 by 7 inch white steel wheels for the perfect vintage look. I mean, that's a super weird combination, and I'm here for it. It's another way that Jeep absolutely is making themselves stand out. The powertrain in the Dispatcher, however, is a little bit of a throwback. It's got the 2.0 plug-in hybrid 4xe. So, so it's the 4-cylinder throwback, but obviously we have that awesome hybrid electric technology. So overall, I got to tell you, I think that The Dispatcher concept is going to be my hands down favorite of the 4 released today. You got to tell us which one you like, which one you're looking for. I think it's interesting that Jeep only has brought 4 to the market. Is this it? Is this all they're going to have? Are they going to release a couple more as the week goes on? I don't know, but these 4 are hot and unique. And I got to be honest, I am, as always, proud to be a Jeep enthusiast and see what Jeep Chrysler Corporation Stellantis gives us for our wildest dreams and imagination. And I hope that you will take a moment and tell us in the comments below what your favorite concept vehicle has been, or what would you have liked to have seen out of a brain-tickling, wild, experimental Jeep would be, and how it would perform at Easter Jeep Safari. Now that we've looked at some of Jeep's epic offerings for concept vehicles for Easter Jeep Safari this year, we're going to travel back in time a little bit and understand where this event came from and what Jeep has brought to the table over the last decade or so. So Easter Jeep Safari starts in 1967, and it's a Chamber of Commerce from the good folks out at Moab, Utah. Basically, it's a one-day event, and it's behind the Rocks Trail, which is pretty mild by today's standings. And the idea was that it was a way to, facilitate community and get people out there in their four-wheel drive vehicles and explore Moab, Utah. This event has become the Super Bowl of the Jeep community. Jeep specifically has taken the opportunity since 2008 to absolutely showcase these iconic off-road vehicles as their concepts and prototypes, where they use, the parts that are up and coming, where they test cool aftermarket parts and features, and they build some wild Jeeps and other off-road platforms, which you'll see in the older ones. The newer ones are all Jeep-based, but in 2008, we were dealing with actually Dodge Ram application as well. For a more extensive history, you'll want to head over to the club that organizes and supports this at Red Rock Four Wheelers. And we're going to go ahead and put a link below so you can go ahead and check them out directly. So 2008 marks the earliest official press release where Jeep Chrysler Corporation kind of officially shows up at Easter Jeep Safari. Now, a group that was formed in roughly the early 2000s, around 2002, the Mopar Underground, was this ultra cool test bed engineers, enthusiasts, and individuals who worked for the corporation, and they had been testing products alternatively to the standard in-house research and development. They had been bringing Jeeps out to Easter Jeep Safari for years prior to, but Jeep Chrysler officially shows up in 2008 and brings about a dozen really cool vehicles with them. In that time, you'll see that this really marks the start of some wild JK builds. You'll know that that platform was only out for about a year at that time, but you'll still see a Highline TJ-inspired build. The Jeep Cherokee XJ shows up in a really cool over-the-top, off-road platform. And Dodge Ram actually has a quad cab truck that appears. This is where I specifically as an enthusiast really start to take notice of what's called the LCG builds, which is considered to be the low center of gravity. Basically really big tires, not so much lift, and big over-the-top fenders that give you that appropriate tire clearance. So Jeep shows up in force, and I really appreciate the vehicles, the platforms that they bring, and they're testing product, and they're ensuring that basically everything that they've built to that point stands up to the ultimate test of just over a week in the desert on the rugged terrain that is Easter Jeep Safari. In 2009, Mopar Underground brings pretty much an extension of the showroom floor. You're going to see some pretty standard accessorized vehicles, but there are definitely some notable mentions in a Hemi-powered full-size Jeep and a short-lived 4.7 Jeep Chrysler Stroker. And again, we're 2009, so realistically, there's still plenty of 4.0 equipped Jeeps, TJs, Cherokees, Grand Cherokees, and the like running around on the road. So it's a pretty good showing for Jeep, but realistically, we're not into those wild concepts like we now see more so. So in 2010, things start to get a little wild, and this is where the iconic Nukazer 715, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but realistically, you can kind of conceptualize that imagery where we have this 715 inspired build with the 2.8 diesel engine that was being utilized in the J8 platforms by that point. That's really the biggest build that comes out of 2010. Otherwise, Mopar Underground kind of continues their catalog of parts display. And again, don't forget, we have these Ram pickup trucks that are continuing to pop up. They don't really utilize some of the older models, the TJs, the XJs, the ZJs at this point. We really see a full array of JK-inspired product. And don't forget, we're kind of running into this fever pitch of the JKU Wrangler market. So as we push into 2011, this is one of my favorite builds that comes out, Pork Chop. Pork Chop was this marriage of the hot rodding mantra of power to weight ratio. And so the idea was they really wanted to strip down a JK platform to give it a ultra light chassis weight with a appropriate power band to turn some massive tires with that low center of gravity build. It becomes a really cool idea about you're basically a couple seats, an engine or powertrain, big tires, and, this lightweight, high maneuverability build. Now, additionally, in 2011, you'll actually see some of the unibody Jeeps accessorized and prototyped and shown how they can challenge the trails at Easter Jeep Safari. It's almost a response to the 2010 when it was so Wrangler heavy. Now we have a smattering of the iconic Jeep brand as a whole. The wheels absolutely come off the bus in 2012. This is when, the Wrangler platform is exploding. They've just made the switch over to the 3.6 Pentastar engine, so Jeep is about to untap just an unlimited potential of engine platform, 300 horsepower, out of the box, ready to rock and roll. And Mopar Underground brings some absolutely insane concept prototype vehicles to market. We have that Rhino grille that we saw previously on the Nukazer 715, and now it's being utilized on this really hot red J-Truck inspired build. Additionally, there is a forward control or an FC 150 170 inspired build, which absolutely takes the off-road market by storm. It's just massive, long bed, cargo capacity, short cab, forward control. So you're leaning out over that steering wheel and over the front axle the whole time you're wheeling. It's a wild experience, but if you're willing to do it, I hear it's a great off-road ride, and obviously it looks cool as all get out. We see those platforms rounded out with kind of a half cab Brute-inspired build, and then again, back another year is a number of unibody builds out of the Grand Cherokee, and obviously the XJ Cherokee is no more, so Jeep as a whole is testing out what that suitable replacement is, knowing that the new Cherokee will be coming down the pipe in another couple years. 2013, a little underwhelming, but you will see kind of a generational homage to Pork Chop with a Jeep called Stitch. It's another power to weight ratio inspired build. We've got V8s, and the Grand Cherokee Trailhawk is again being played with as a concept and proven on the trails. Overall, it's going to be a Wrangler heavy type year again. The extreme nature of the builds that we saw in 2012 is kind of put on the back burner, but it's a great proving grounds for these applications as these concepts continue to shine at EJS. 2014 marks the debut of the KL Cherokee. So those of you at home who have grown to love this platform, this is when it is thrust onto the market. Now, there's a lot of people who had mixed feelings at that point, but realistically, it's not a bad platform, and it was absolutely proven. There's about 3 or 4 Wranglers. They're okay, and none of them have Hemis at that point, and obviously we won't see that in production until much later in the JL line. They're all pretty standard builds that just kind of show and utilize pretty regular production products at that time. Ultimately, the year as a whole, we don't see any other trucks or any other big prototype concept vehicles. In true to form, Jeep Chrysler Corporation, we stopped using the term Mopar Underground as much. That's kind of an ambiguous phrase, at one point in time officially recognized, and then it kind of slowly goes away in the middle of the night, it feels like, as an enthusiast. But somewhere in 2015, they kind of scaled back for a couple of years, and then they hit us with something really cool. So 2015 is the tribute to the Cherokee Chief. It's this beautiful blue Cherokee Chief full-size inspired build. It's going to have the Razor grille on it and a whole bunch of other modifications, beautiful interior, and highly functional off-road. Additionally, Jeep brings us the Staff Car build, which is a tribute to that military-inspired history that, has given us the civilian market, the Jeeps that we know and love today. 2 big concept vehicles rounded out by a number of highly modified and conceptualized vehicles. There's actually a lot of cool things going on in 2015. I absolutely love kind of this safari-inspired build with the large rear opening for the tailgate section and the steel one-piece wheel that starts to appear in our styling in the automotive market. And I actually personally love this design, but at that time, Detroit Steel was a manufacturer in the area, Southern Michigan. Obviously, Detroit was initializing these big overall one-piece wheels, and people were starting to gravitate to them in this kind of nostalgic throwback manner. So it was cool to see one of the EJS concepts utilizing that. Additionally, there was this Red Rock Responder, and the very cool thing about that marks this bed with a great departure angle. So I like to think that that's really where they start to play with the Jeep JT application, because the Red Rock Responder has a utilitarian bed almost on the back of a JK 4-door. Now, uncharacteristically, because they brought some heat in 2016, we see absolutely gnarly builds. We have a beautiful throwback FC150. We have the Crew Chief 715, which is kind of an extension of that previous build. Additionally, we have that kind of what has become an iconic Hellcat-equipped 2-door JK. It's lime green and black. It's just super, super sexy, and it's got just a massive V8 engine in it, to that really kind of goofy-looking Comanche pickup truck where they took the front end of a Renegade, which if you're in overseas markets was called the Panda, and they took the front end of the Renegade and married it to a little bed, and they called it a Comanche. I got to be honest with you, I give them style points for trying something unusual. Realistically, I kind of think it was a flop. Now, the piece that Jeep has continued to play with, and I have to ensure you that as an enthusiast, been around for decades watching Jeep Chrysler Corporation and their subsidiaries, the shortcut Jeep is this smaller version of the Wrangler that Jeep has been playing with for a period of time, kind of getting back to basics of that original 40s inspired civilian Jeep. This idea that our platforms continue to get bigger and bigger, but that people actually crave this slightly smaller, lightweight application that's kind of utilitarian in its process. By the time that 2017 is rolling around, the Mopar Underground associates are really hitting their stride. Now they're consistently churning out these industry forefront, aftermarket leading products, right? We have arguably one of my favorites, a CJ6 inspired build, which just absolutely captures the iconic nature of one of the earliest long wheelbase Jeeps that we know and packages it into a TJ chassis, and it's just super cool. But probably more importantly that year, in celebration of the 25th anniversary of the Jeep Grand Cherokee platform, we see this reemergence of a 1993 ZJ Grand Cherokee. Now, those of you who have followed this channel before know that I don't always give a lot of love to the Grand Cherokees. It's a little bit of a bittersweet thing that I have going on. Understand that that's really kind of tongue-in-cheek because Jeep as a overall brand is always pushing the limits. They're always prototyping on the Grand Cherokee. And without that 1993 model, we wouldn't be where we're at today. So it's a cool homage to the Grand Cherokee platform as a whole to see it built and utilizing a lot of the modern touches and conveniences stuffed into that older body style. Also by 17, Jeep starts giving us all the crazy nicknames because obviously we're at the height of people nicknaming their JK Wranglers. And so we see fun names like Quicksand, Luminator, Switchback, and even a lifted compass they called the Trail Pass. That's just cool stuff. Running into 2018, we're going to see the release of the JL and JLU application. So those of you who have purchased the Jeep in the last few years, you'll understand that this is when your Jeep is born on the trails. But really, the Jeep that was the belle of the ball was a 60s inspired Wagoneer build. And it was full of little touches that just, were inspired by the vintage American iron that has made us fall in love with Jeep as a brand. Additionally, you'll see that model, the pork chop that I talked about from 2010, continue to give inspiration to another light power-to-weight ratio two-door build this year as well. 2019, it's the year of the Gladiator. And if you know, you know. This year marks a whole bunch of Jeep trucks and Jeep truck accessories being prototyped and utilized. I personally like to think that what we start to see is a shift away from the kind of the prototype and concept vehicles and now into some of these detail-oriented builds and a showcase for Jeep Chrysler aftermarket parts as a whole. So you'll see a number of truck builds showcasing those different parts, almost like that showroom-inspired builds of the early 2000s. Probably my favorite Jeep truck-inspired build of this year, or at least the one that stands out to most people, is going to be the two-door version. Jeep has teased us with a standard cab Jeep truck for years. I doubt they'll actually ever give it to us in production numbers. People just love four doors for whatever reason. But EJS 2019 saw a two-door Jeep Gladiator, and it absolutely commanded attention and coverage from all Jeep and off-road enthusiasts. So 2020 happens, and it's a big-ish. Obviously, the world went a little topsy-turvy. Jeep concept vehicles are teased throughout the year, and there was a number of special photo shoots that happened that were inspired as EJS related or a release of concept, but realistically not the same type of showing or kind of emphasis that we have seen or we grew accustomed to and that we're seeing now. In 2021, you're really going to see Jeep get reacclimated to Easter Jeep Safari and bring some unique vehicles to the table. The big one that you're going to see command the most attention is going to be the Jeepster Commando inspired vehicle, roughly a 1968 in its concept. You're going to see this particular Commando inspired build on top of a 2020 Wrangler Rubicon chassis. So it takes that Commando inspired imagery and gives it all of the cool features and off-road ability that our Wrangler platform has. Additionally, we see it powered by a 2.0 engine platform, which is one of the earliest inclinations of that turbo 4-cylinder application. The other big takeaway from 2021 is going to be the Magneto build. This is an industry-leading electrification of a Wrangler platform. This kind of utilizes a high horsepower, lightweight type build for the Wrangler platform, and ultimately showcasing where the Jeep brand is headed. In 2022, Jeep takes this concept of electrification to a whole new level, bringing a Magneto 2.0, which just pushes the bounds on that, air quotes, horsepower of EV application. Additionally, they bring a 1941-ish inspired military build, which is this iconic military imagery married to a 4xe chassis. So just a great, cool combination of EV and combustion in American iron clothing. Finally, by 2023, we see more full-size Jeep-inspired imagery, but also on a 4xe chassis. So another type of marriage between old tech and new tech, or that iconic shapes and lines and imagery that we know and love, and this new technology that inevitably is coming our way. Additionally, you'll see some ultra high-end, high horsepower, Hemi-inspired builds, and some bright colors that they tease us with and continue to push the bounds in our industry, leading us up to our modern day on the car lot and in the showroom offerings. I hope that you have enjoyed this kind of wild ride of Easter Jeep Safari inspired concepts. We know that we absolutely do. Now, if you enjoy this type of content, we need you to subscribe. We are going for a goal of 6,000 subscribers in 2024, and we can only do it if you help us get there. If you thought this content was cool, you're going to want to check out some of our other videos. You definitely want to go out and check out our most recent video, Why Jeep Trucks Suck, and I'm going to expand upon some of the reasons they do and don't meet the needs of an everyday truck enthusiast.